I'd like to read you an email that I got today from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I feel like it's an opportunity for me to get some feedback. I do have to specify this may be junk mail because it comes from the Church History Society, and the email is at a MailChimp address with a reply to address to a Gmail account. Now, the letterhead all looks legit, so here we go. Without further ado, church-wide program. Informed consent. Dear brothers and sisters, today we have an opportunity of spiritual importance and for thoughtful reflection. We have all been invited to participate in a new initiative, a prayerful and earnest effort to help members engage more deeply with church history and doctrine through faithful and transparent sources. As you may know, church leaders have, in recent years, encouraged greater access to contextual information about our history. From the publications of the Gospel Topics essays 11 to 12 years ago, to the ongoing work of the Joseph Smith Papers Project and videos of President Nelson showing us how Joseph translated the Book of Mormon with his face in a white stovepipe hat with a seer stone. This initiative has two primary goals: to ensure all new converts are fully informed before baptism, with clarity and honesty, so that their covenants are made with both heart and understanding. To invite all members to prayerfully study a short series of lessons that address common questions and misconceptions. Far too often, members stumble upon difficult historical issues through sources not grounded in faith, which can result in confusion or distress. The brethren desired that these matters be approached in a faithful, respectful way from church-approved sources, in a spirit of trust and love. We also recognize that some cultural ideas or traditions, though passed down over generations, may not reflect the revealed doctrine of the church. This is an opportunity to clarify those areas and build unity upon a solid gospel foundation. Below are multiple points with links only to official church publications and sources. We strongly encourage you to read prayerfully and with a spirit of discernment. If time is limited, you might choose to read the below summaries and return later to explore the footnotes and references more fully. We do not teach that we will get our own planets. This is not in our scriptures, nor is it doctrine. Church News FAQ number 12. We are not becoming a god. Church News FAQ number 11. The Book of Abraham has been the subject of deep scholarly study, which has found it is not what Joseph claimed it to be. The Gospel Topic essay explains that we have the papyrus that it was translated from. The translation is 100% incorrect and does not mention or refer to Abraham, as the papyrus was created thousands of years after Abraham lived. It was not written by Abraham's own hand, which contradicts the introduction to the Book of Abraham. Joseph claimed to translate the characters above the figures in the facsimiles, but they are all incorrect, eliminating any claim to a missing scroll theory. The Joseph Smith Papers Project also shows how the facsimiles were doctored to remove some of the real Egyptian content that did not fit with the Abraham narrative, e.g., the presence of Anubis in facsimile 3, the far left character with a jackal snout, removed prior to printing. The brethren are prayerfully considering decanonizing the Book of Abraham, which would then, regrettably, eliminate all our unique pre-existence knowledge. Throughout his life, Joseph Smith married 30 to 40 women. Footnote 24. 12 to 14 of these women were already married to other righteous men. Footnote 29. The youngest was 14. Gospel Topics essay. He was intimate with his wives and possibly had 2 to 3 children with them. Footnote 25 and Body of Gospel Topics essay. It was Joseph Smith who instigated polygamy, not God, as it was Joseph who, after reading about it in the Old Testament, asked the Lord if he could put it into practice in 1831. After Joseph was already practicing polygamy with multiple women, Joseph warned others that if they would not marry him, an angel with a drawn sword would end his life. Polygamy is still in our doctrine and will be part of our lives in the eternities. Brigham Young stated that the only men who become gods will be those who enter into polygamy. Joseph F. Smith made it clear it was essential for the salvation and exaltation of mankind. John Taylor, in referring to Joseph Smith's revelation, stated the keys of the kingdom would be removed from those who did not practice it. President Nelson and President Oaks were sealed to 2 women and will be with both of them in the celestial kingdom. D&C 132 contains all of the doctrine for practicing polygamy. All of these rules, however, were broken by Joseph throughout his life. Not all of the wives were virgins. One was 6 months pregnant, and Emma wasn't told about most of them. Only a few children came from the unions. Emma was threatened with death multiple times in D&C 132 if she did not comply, which denied her any free agency in the practice of polygamy. The Book of Mormon was translated using a seer stone in a hat. This was the same method Joseph used right before to attempt to locate buried treasure for others while never finding any. He was in trouble with the law for his fraudulent practice. Joseph Smith plagiarized the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible from Adam Clarke's commentary on the Bible. BYU. There are multiple versions of the first vision that contradict each other about important details: who visited, Joseph's age, reason why, etc. Gospel Topics Essays. It is true that it was a common idea in that part of the world and at that time in history to claim to have had a first vision. Many other people had their accounts published before Joseph's, like Norris Steams in 1815, Elias Smith in 1816, Asa Wilde in 1823, James G. Marsh in 1832, and Charles G. Finney, 1821. Multiple prophets and apostles have stated in the Journal of Discourses that it was only an angel who visited Joseph that day. Some make it clear that God and Jesus never visited Joseph. Orson Hyde, J.O.D. Volume 6, page 335. Brigham Young, J.O.D. Volume 2, 170 to 171. Wilford Woodruff, J.O.D. Volume 2, 196 to 197. Heber C. Kimball, J.O.D. Volume 6, page 29. John Taylor, J.O.D. Volume 10, page 127. George A. Smith, J.O.D. Volume 12, 333 to 334. George A. Smith, J.O.D. Volume 13, 77 to 78. There are multiple statements from the 3 witnesses where they admit they only saw the plates in their imaginations, not with their physical eyes. Gospel Topics. It is possible that Oliver Cowdery denied his testimony of the Book of Mormon. This is only a second-hand source, but it was published in a church-run newspaper at the time. BYU. Several early sources say it was Nephi and not Moroni who visited Joseph and directed him to locate the gold plates. Times and Season, Volume 3, 753. Millennial Star, N4, Volume 3, page 71. Biographical Sketches, page 79. Pearl of Great Price, 1851, page 41. Joseph Smith was not illiterate in 1830. 1829 letter, 1831 letter, 1831 letter, Ensign article. He used to give amusing recitals to his family about the ancient inhabitants of the land before he received the golden plates. Joseph Smith Papers Project. Joseph Smith substantially changed the wording of an earlier revelation when he compiled the 1835 Doctrine and Covenants, inserting multiple verses that contained the entire priesthood restoration. None of it was in the original published Book of Commandments Revelation. Joseph accidentally translated Matthew chapter 6 twice, 3 months apart, for the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible. There are no similarities between each attempt. First attempt, second attempt. In the April 1990 General Conference, President Nelson first discussed the use of the term Mormon and wanting to have the full name of the church be used instead. Then, in the October 1990 General Conference, President Hinckley gently disagreed with President Nelson. He stated that Mormon meant more good and that we should be proud to use that name. Joseph Smith also gave us the literal translation of the word Mormon and stated it means more good. It is possible in the future that the word Mormon will be more commonly used. The exaltation and priesthood ban that was imposed upon some of our members for 126 years was sadly because of the personal racist beliefs of past prophets of our church. The ban was not because dark-colored skin is an indication of divine disfavor or because of any action in the pre-existence. Although Brigham Young stated that black people will not get the priesthood until the millennium, after every white man has had the opportunity. He was just speaking as a man. Footnote 9, source. In 1907, President Joseph F. Smith taught that the church expects to see the day when they will no longer require any tithing from us, as they will have sufficient to run the church. Our church now makes more in interest from its prudent investments every year than it needs to run the church. For those, then, who are struggling in these difficult times, please consider Lorenzo Snow's comments in 1899. I plead with you, in the name of the Lord, and I pray that every man, woman, and child who has means shall pay 1/10 of their income as a tithing. I am sure we are all aware now that the Book of Mormon has a troubling number of anachronisms in it. There are large amounts of text and ideas from multiple documents, all published between 400 AD and 1830 that have been found in the Book of Mormon, and unfortunately, most of them cannot be argued away. The Book of Mormon also quotes from many New Testament verses, examples below, which of course could not have been found in the brass plates. Number 1. 2 Nephi 2:5 quotes Romans 3:20, even though Lehi lived 600 years before Paul. Number 2. Helaman 5:8 refers to the Sermon on the Mount, but it was written 60 years before the Sermon on the Mount occurred. Number 3. Mormon 9:24 quotes from Mark 16:17 through 18. Mark 16:9 through 20 was a much later addition to the New Testament, early 2nd century. Number 4. 1 Nephi 22:15 and 2 Nephi 25:13 quote from Malachi 4:1 through 2, even though Nephi lived 200 years before Malachi. Number 5. Alma 7:24 refers to 1 Corinthians 13:13 and 2 Corinthians 9:8, even though Alma lived 100 years before they were written. The brethren are slowly moving towards the idea of the Book of Mormon being an inspired work created by Joseph Smith rather than a literal history of the ancient inhabitants of the American continent. This allows for him to have included so many ideas and stories from his immediate surroundings in the work. Number 1. Speaking at the 2016 Mission President Seminar, President Nelson said of the Book of Mormon, "It is not a textbook of history. It is not a record of all former inhabitants of the Western Hemisphere." Number 2. At April 2020 General Conference, Elder Ulysses Soares, speaking about the coming forth of the Book of Mormon, said it was not translated in the traditional way that scholars would translate ancient texts by learning an ancient language. We ought to look at the process more like a revelation. Number 3. On October 22, 2021, at a member gathering in Amman, Jordan, Elder David A. Bednar of the 12 said, "The Book of Mormon is not a book of history." He also made similar comments in his October 2024 General Conference talk. DNA evidence has shown conclusively that American Indians come from Siberia and not from the Middle East. This discovery then led to the introduction of the Book of Mormon being altered to say that the Lamanites are among the ancestors of the American Indians, rather than saying they are the principal ancestors of the American Indians, as it said previously. The revelation for the word of wisdom can be found in D&C 89. It is true that the revelation does specifically allow for drinking beer, mild drinks made of barley. It is common knowledge, of course, that Joseph and Brigham Young were known to drink and sell alcohol. The word of wisdom is also clear in relation to the fact that meat should be eaten only sparingly, only in times of winter or of cold or famine. It is also clear on hot drinks of any sort being not for the body or belly. It is a myth that our endowment ceremony is related in any way to Solomon's temple. The Masonic rituals that our endowment was based upon originated in early modern Europe, i.e., 1450 to 1789 AD. It contains identical handshakes, symbols, similar wording, stonemason's apron, set square, compass, and ruler, etc. On top of the endowment ceremony, there is a second, more sacred ritual called the second anointing, or more commonly known as having your calling and election made sure. Usually, it is reserved for stake presidents, mission presidents, and higher-up callings. It is for those who have done enough already in this life and are therefore granted eternal exaltation now. As has been requested, though, in our manuals, we need to exercise caution when discussing this sacred ritual and not answer any questions in relation to it. Brothers and sisters, we know that studying these topics may be challenging, yet we invite you to approach them with faith, humility, and a sincere desire to understand. The Lord has asked us to seek learning, even by study and also by faith. D&C 88, 118. We are moving forward, always striving to align our lives with the teachings of the Savior and the guidance of His apostles. As we embrace this process of learning together, we trust that our understanding will deepen, our hearts will grow, and our testimonies will become stronger. The brethren have expressed their deep desire that these discussions will continue in our homes, among our families, our congregations, and with our church leaders. To know this information and not share it amongst those who have devoted their lives to our beautiful faith would indeed be profoundly immoral. Copyright 2026 Church History Society. All rights reserved. So the first thing that I have a question about specifically from this email, the second bullet point says we are not becoming a god. However, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10th bullet point says polygamy is still in our doctrine and will be part of our lives in the eternity. Brigham Young stated that the only men who become gods will be those who enter into polygamy. So there is a clear misalignment here. If we are not becoming a god, then how do we reconcile this with Brigham Young's quote? Everything else is pretty, well, what do you think?